Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. Luke St. Martin, Eric H526, the two best moderators in all of YouTube. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And what can I tell you? It's heating up to my super chat. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have $20 million in venture capital funding like some people. And I don't have two political action committees that funnel money from one PAC to another or from one PAC to a corporation like some people. So, ladies and gentlemen, your support is always just amazing. And people, check out my latest on H.A. Goodman's other channel. I'm ramping that up. I'm doing at least a segment a day on that now, and it'll be 3 segments a day in October. People, Mitt Romney has given President Trump his 3rd Supreme Court justice. Democrats are powerless. They can't do anything but complain and be their usual apoplectic, seething, fuming, hysterical, fanatical selves, which is really, like, all they do. That's really what they're about. But they're not even good at that anymore. Generally, they are, like, kind of, at least they could convey the image or some semblance of political power or influence. Now they can't even do that. Now they're completely defeated. They are depressed, defeated, and they have themselves to blame. They did this to themselves. They did not listen to their voters. They deceived and cheated their voters, and they did this to themselves. So let's just... Mitt Romney was seen as the good Republican. That was the title given to Mitt Romney. He was friends with the Lincoln Project, and he was the good Republican, and he just didn't like Trump's demeanor. And, you know, Trump is a mean person, and Romney's a good human being. Kaylee Smith. Hashtag fill the seat, as Andrew Breitbart would put it. Yep. Kaylee Smith, thank you very, very much. Kaylee, thank you very, very much. For the longest time, I never really understood Breitbart's mentality, but then when I left the Democratic Party, I kind of understood. I kind of understood what he was, like, how he felt in terms of really going after the Democratic Party. They did this to themselves in many ways. So let's just, Kaylee Smith, thank you. Number one, they are powerless. They cannot stop President Trump. They don't have the Senate. I took grief for the midterms, but I did say, I did predict that the Senate would increase, Republicans would increase their lead in the Senate. Thank God. And so you have a situation where they have the Senate. They need more than just Murkowski and Collins and Romney. They need yet another person, and you're not going to get, this is the thing, the Democrats are like completely delusional. You're not going to get Republicans, enough Republicans to say, no, we don't want to fill that seat. Because Trump is going 8 years, but a lot of people don't think he is. A lot of Republicans say, oh, well, the media and the polls say he's down. It was the same thing in 2016. When it gets closer to November 3rd, people will realize, okay, we have a choice between Hillary Clinton and Trump again. They're not going with Biden. That'll be absolutely amazing. So I called the 2016 election. I'm going to call the 2020 election. President Trump's going 8 years. You watch. Madam Secretary, that dorsal fin ain't flipper. You watch. Biden put a lid on his campaign today. Again, okay, the man is not even campaigning. The man is not really campaigning. So Kaylee Smith, the man is not really campaigning. And like, he yet again put a lid on his campaign, which means that he just did not answer. Well, he didn't. Well, he never answers really any questions, but he did not do anything in terms of. This is Jessica O'Donnell on Twitter. Second time in 4 days, including the day after RBG passed. The guy doesn't have the strength to lead the country. And she's quoting. She is quoting the digital, one of the top officials on digital media for President Trump. I forgot exactly. I had the link, but now I don't have the link. But and this is the actual quote. And there it is. It's at 9:22 a.m., 42 days before the election. A lid has been called by the Biden campaign. This is unprecedented and unheard of. Why is this happening? Can you explain to me? This is not like I'm telling you. Eventually, they're going to replace Biden with Clinton, because Biden doesn't do well with. He doesn't do as well with Black or Latino voters. But here, this is Jack Schneider. He is the Deputy Director of Rapid Response for President Trump's campaign. Team Trump and Trump War Room. And he has some hilarious posts on, hello, Kristen J, hello. He has some, Pierre Delecto, Sam, hello. He has some hilarious posts of Biden that aren't covered in media. But around, and there it is at 9:22 a.m. today, 42 days before the election. A lid has been called by the Biden campaign. A lid is called by a campaign to signal that the candidate is done making news for the day, meaning Joe Biden is in his basement to stay for the day. And you have, ladies and gentlemen, you have you have this. Okay, so let's just look. I want to read to you what these people are saying. It's kind of hilarious. Okay, it's kind of let's just see what the hashtag is. Okay, so you have people. They're not talking about anything. They're not talking about stopping President Trump, because they cannot. It is impossible for them. It is impossible for them. So just, you can look at the Lincoln Project, Democratic Party type people. Is Trump a Russian agent? It's the unanswered question of our time. The Washington Post. They're still going at it. They are still going at it. The unanswered question, is Trump a Russian agent? Yes, for giving lethal aid to Ukraine, for presiding over record low unemployment, for being the first president to step foot in North Korea, for presiding over peace between Israel and the UAE and Bahrain and Serbia and Kosovo. Yes, he's a Russian agent. And I mean, they did this to themselves. If it's a 7-2 Supreme Court, heaven forbid, they'll do it to themselves. It's going to be 6-3. They're still talking about the only thing they can do. The only thing they can do is harp on the same is go ahead and try to implement the same failed strategies. The same failed strategies of the past 4 years. It's kind of hilarious. Is he a Russian agent? This is what they're talking about. Is he a Russian agent? Pete Solano! I'm telling you, H.A. Basement Biden is a zombie looking for... Pete Solano, thank you. But they're doing it again. So, I mean, you can look at like what they're talking about. And first they allege, here, this is hilarious. So you have the former President Obama's official. First they allege Biden is mentally impaired and taking performance-enhancing drugs. Then they're trying to raise debate expectations by saying he's a good debater. He's a good debater, and no, he's neither impaired or taking drugs. Well, okay. They're not talking about stopping. They're not talking about stopping the president. Let's look at what MSDNC is talking about in the hosts here. I'll be joining to discuss Russian disinformation. Like, they're still going to... It's going to be the end of President Trump's 8th year, and they're still going to talk about Russian disinformation. They are completely delusional. They haven't, they have not accepted reality. Then somebody wrote, once you pass away, you're a nobody to Donald Trump, even if you're his brother. It's like, where do they get this nonsense? Where do they get this nonsense? Where do they get this nonsense? They make up this vile, hearsay and gossip. They're so mired. They're like stewing in their own miserable discontent and venom. Because they did this to themselves. They cheated Bernie Sanders. They expected people to fall in line. People didn't fall in line. People did not fall in line. Do you get that, Democrats? People did not fall in line. They didn't fall in line. And you're still talking about Russian disinformation like a bunch of imbeciles and fools. And President Trump's going for his 3rd Supreme Court justice. He's going to go 8 years, and you are done as a political party. So you have people, and then they're retweeting Michigan Biden up 5. First of all, if Biden isn't up 15 a week before the election, he's done. The man cannot hold a poll. He's not even campaigning. And number one, it ain't going to be Biden. It's going to be Clinton. But Clinton, Biden, Democrats never hold their polling lead. They have every conceivable possible advantage. Every conceivable possible advantage. Thank you, AJ Hill. Thank you. They have every conceivable possible advantage, and they still... It's like, you know what? Have you ever seen Usain Bolt race other competitors or people that are fast, like other athletes, but not track fast or not like world-class speed? He could literally be 20 yards behind people and still defeat them easily. Okay? That's like Trump. Like, he's behind people. Like, if you took some of the fastest players in the NFL or some of the fastest athletes, but you had Usain Bolt 20 yards behind them, he would still win in the 100 easily. Or 10 yards, or 5 or 10 yards behind them. He'd still win in the 100. So, it's like, Deborah, thank you. It's like, they're not talking about stopping President Trump because they can't stop President Trump. Because there's nothing to stop. They don't have the Senate. They're like, oh, well, it was her last wish. Well, what do you think Antonin Scalia's last wish was? And remember how they treated Antonin Scalia? They treated him in the most disrespectful manner because they view their political ideology as morality. They view their politics as morality. Let's look at other MSDNC. They're talking about the CDC. They're talking about Trump's rallies. And it's really kind of funny because all of these liberals caught the pandemic, but I don't know, like, all of them caught the pandemic, but then they're giving lectures on how you should prevent catching the pandemic. It's like, well, you caught the pandemic. You caught it. He didn't say it affects virtually nobody in general. He was talking about young people. But see, again, they twist his words. And then you get this, like, oh, just awful. These are monsters. This is what they're doing again. This is what they're doing again. Justin Mooney! Justin! The Dems want to impeach. Yeah, they do. Based on last wish doctrine. Apparently, whatever AOC wants becomes party policy immediately. Optics be damned. So glad to be on the Trump train. He broke their brains. He broke their brains, but also, Justin, thank you so very much, Justin. He broke their brains, but also, it's not like AOC. Okay, there's no Medicare for All bill. There's no Green New Deal legislation. There's no universal basic income. There's no, like, what she truly wants, one would think, they would adopt, but they haven't. They haven't. It's like this giant charade, and they don't get it. She endorsed Bernie Sanders, which is it's impossible. So you know Clinton's going to be there eventually. It's like the Michael Jackson song, I'll be there. Justin, thank you. Thank you for the generosity. Thank you. The Golden Moo. You're my biggest believer. The Golden Moo. You have to be one of the top 5, maybe even top 3 best names on this channel. And I've had amazing names on this channel. But thank you so very much for your generosity. And the Golden Moo, thank you very much. Thank you. The Golden Moo. UNA, hello. The Golden Moo, thank you so very much. It's going to happen eventually. And I thank you for your support and your generosity, the Golden Moo. Thank you. You look, ladies and gentlemen, Golden Moo. You look, Justin Mooney. You look. And it's like they're done as a political party. They are done as a political party. They don't have, like, they don't have any ability to communicate policies. They have no ability to communicate policies that resonate throughout the Democratic Party and throughout the country. They have factions of support here and factions of support there. They have the Medicare for All people, then they have the defund the police people, and then they have the abolish the Electoral College people, and then they have the pack the courts people, and then they have the Green New Deal people, and then they have the I'm with her people, and then they have just the CNN people, and there's the Democratic Party is fractured into about 12, 13 different, probably like 6 or 7 pieces that you can't, that's a puzzle that you can't put together because the pieces do not fit. The Medicare for All people don't fit with the Lincoln Project people who have aligned with the Democratic Party. It doesn't fit. It does not fit. It doesn't fit. So it's like you have to ask yourself, at what point do they realize that they're the reason? See, Democrats never, oh my God, Lisa Page has she's an MSNBC legal analyst. This is the most I didn't even know this. This is the most wonderful thing I've ever seen in my life. Lisa Page, the lovely Lisa Page, is on Twitter as an MSNBC legal analyst. These are the people who literally, not only at risk of indictment, but you have Kevin Kleinsmith. These are the people who worked with Kevin Kleinsmith who did get indicted for falsifying FISA applications to deceive judges. Then you're talking about people who Lisa Page told her friend Peter Strzok, the Golden Moo and Justin Mooney, he's not going to become president, right? This is like unbelievable. Pilgrim Media. No, never. That's the thing. The DNC will never look at any of their losses and say, okay, we have to rebuild. They will never look at any of their losses. And it's kind of hilarious, too, because these people have aligned themselves. These people have aligned themselves with intelligence officials, corrupt intelligence officials, that literally set up and framed President Trump. That's why you have the Durham probe. They've also aligned themselves with people who have caused, and I'm talking about Operation Legend and the hundreds of 200 to 300 people who have been already indicted on federal crimes pertaining to $1.4 billion in property damage and violence. They don't stand for any policy. President Trump stands for a reversal of U.S. foreign policy of the past 20 years prior to President Trump, past 16 years prior to President Trump. Let's listen. This is interesting. You have, this. I told you also, ladies and gentlemen, that they would go and try to disparage Trump based on the message board hoax called the Q nonsense. And now all they're focusing on is that. All they're focusing on is that. They don't have anything else. He's even more despicable when he's losing. That's all they do is lose. They are done as a political party. They're not talking about anything. I'm trying to do research. I do research for when before these live streams and before the uploads, and it's like I want to find out what their goals are. Okay, so here's one wonderful journalist. Republicans are 100% right, winning the presidency and a Senate majority with a minority of the votes, and using a Senate majority with the minority of the votes. Okay, and using that power to fill court vacancies is unquestionably within the rules of the game. So is statehood for D.C. and court expansion. This is the mentality. They're like, oh well, we can't win. We have every conceivable possible advantage, but we can't win. So we're gonna add Senate seats, and we're gonna add Senate seats, and then we're going to add judges. But then Republicans can do the same thing if they wanted to. Levi Hubner, hello. Red Wave, hello. Levi, thank you. I didn't see that. Thank you, Levi. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Old school dad, man. Love all the work they're doing. Yeah, I mean, President Trump is. They're doing a lot of William Barr, John Durham. Thank you, old school dad, man. Thank you. But the funny thing is they wouldn't want. This is the mentality. They want D.C. to be a state, even though President Obama did not want D.C. to be a state. But they want D.C. to be a state because they say, well, you know what, we'll get 2 extra senators. But they wouldn't want D.C. to be a state if it would help Republicans. They want court expansion because they think it helps them. But they wouldn't want court expansion if it was a 6-3 Republican or liberal majority. They knew the rules of the game in 2016, and they cheated Bernie Sanders. They told people to fall in line. They knew people wouldn't fall in line. Then they're wailing and mourning the fact that people didn't fall in line. It's like, no, it's not the people who didn't vote for Clinton, despite the possibility of a Republican-dominated Supreme Court. It's the people who expected that everyone fall in line, even with overt cheating of a candidate that you stated, Democrats, had every that had every opportunity to win. The reality is that Bernie Sanders was cheated. You said that you said that it was going to be a fair and neutral primary. You gave millions upon millions of people the belief that Bernie Sanders could have won. Now, I'm telling you, it seems like I'm like obsessed with this, and it's because I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster. Old school dad, man, thank you. Levi, thank you. Pilgrim Media, thank you. Matthew Wayne, God bless HA. Raiders are looking good so far. God bless you, Matthew. Yes, God bless you, Matthew. The Raiders are looking great. I think they're going to go all the way this year. I really do. Gruden is awesome. He's just a great, great coach. And I love Josh Jacobs. Love Josh Jacobs. Love Josh Jacobs. He is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, you know, if you do well in Alabama, USC, Miami, Notre Dame, you're going to be good in the NFL. But love Josh Jacobs. Raiders look great. Gruden is fantastic. And the Raiders look amazing. By the way, with my babushka hat, I'm doing something to it too. Derek Carr is awesome. He's fantastic also. He had a great, great game. That offense is pretty balanced offense. Love that offense. Defense is good too. Defense could step it up a tiny bit, but Raiders look fantastic. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you. Josh Jacobs is the man. He is the man. Patriot girl, hello. Aaron Paradiso. What surprises should we expect? Should be expecting in November? Madam Secretary. The dorsal fin circling around Biden. That's Madam Secretary. Aaron Paradiso. I think that Madam Secretary is right around the corner. They ain't going with Biden. It's pretty overt now, and you look at what's taking place. Aaron, everyone here, they're done politically. Old school dad man, Levi, Pilgrim Media, Matthew, Luis Rivera. I didn't see that. Luis Rivera, thank you. Luis Rivera, thank you so very, very much. I didn't see that for some reason on my end. I can't see certain super chats. Thank you, Golden Moo. I can't tell you, Golden Moo. Thank you. One of the great names on this channel, and thank you for your support. Justin, thank you. Simon Hathaway Spurlock, love the hat. Best live stream on YouTube. Greatest president of my lifetime. Turtle, please. Red Tsunami. Shiber, thank you. Well, they wanted to Oh gosh, I'm losing my McConnell.
It was Antonin Scalia's wish that we have I shouldn't say 6-3. Oh God, no.
I've lost my McConnell tonight. I'll get it back tomorrow. I'm not feeling it.
Nancy, how do you like Nancy Pelosi? Nancy, Miss McConnell here. Nancy. It's going to be a 6-3 Supreme Court. I just want to give my regards to Harry the Pirate Rude.
I can't do it. Pete Solano, Simon Hathaway Spurlock, thank you. I'm trying my best. I just can't do it. Pete Solano, us Broncos fans gave Gruden the name Chucky, and it fits him perfectly. That would give the team a winter season. Yes, Pete Solano, thank you. I think that, Gruden is a coach like Belichick. You can kind of see, he's worth the money. Okay, so he has a 10-year, $100 million contract. And he's worth the money. John Gruden is worth the money. I would not say that about any other coach aside from Belichick and Gruden, and I don't know, maybe there's, like you look at I don't want to like diss anybody, but like you look at, it's not just the Cowboys coach, but you look at the Cowboys, for example. I know like Stephen A. Smith always has a good time making fun of the Cowboys. Like the Cowboys, there's no reason why in the past 6-7 years they couldn't have done a lot better. They had good teams. And when they had Romo, they had good teams then too. So, but I mean, when you have certain coaches, Pete Carroll's also a fantastic coach. He was great with SC before Seattle, but John Gruden is worth the $100 million. He's probably one of the few coaches, or like, in any sports league that's worth $100 million. But he is because he takes a team, he develops the talent, he puts people in the right situations. He's never going to be outcoached. And that's what happens. When you have bad teams, they're always outcoached. And especially when you have talent. If you put a different coach, the Raiders might not be doing this. Raiders could be 0-2 with a different coach. The defense needs to step up a tiny bit. The defense is still good, but they've given up over 20 points each game. But with a different coach, they could be 0-2. So, Revco! Can't wait to see the court 6-3. Those sweet, sweet regressive tears will flow. Exactly. Oh, they will flow so delicious. Finger licking. Revco! Hello! Pretty much, I mean, this is like an election victory before November. Revco and the Golden Mumu, I view it to be an election victory before November, Revco. This is like the election before the election. Aaron Paradiso! Do you think there's a good chance the election will be decided by the Supreme Court again? I do. I do. I don't know what the chances would be, Aaron, but I do. See, that they don't, like, Democrats don't care about, like, they're not about communicating anything to voters. Biden isn't even running. He's not even running. He's like, putting a lid on the campaign. He's like Punxsutawney Phil. He goes outside, sees his shadow, and then goes back into the basement. So that's why they're like, oh, yeah, we have so many attorneys. Like, so what? The Republicans have attorneys, too. So what? They're really funny, too, because, like if you've been in fights or if you've seen that there are dangerous people out there, and even if you can defend yourself, it's like, you don't want to pick fights with people, or you don't want to put yourself in situations. Like, it's not just about, Like, life is not just about defending yourself, or it's about not putting yourself in situation. If it's like 2 a.m, you don't go through an alley, to get to another street. You just don't do that. Don't do that. So it's like Democrats, they're always pretending that whatever situation they put themselves in, they can just get out because they have, corrupt intelligence officials, and they have media, and they have Hollywood, and they have social media. It's like, that's not going to save you. That's not going to save you. You can be armed to the teeth, but if you put yourselves in bad situations, that's actually could be a lot worse than not even being armed. Id Kang, but this 45. Hello. The reason Biden is running is because the only way to shield himself from investigation, Biden is the one who did all the dirty work. Yeah, well, you know what? He is completely shady. I hope I'm pronouncing your ID Id Kang, but I can't pronounce I don't know if I can pronounce your name correctly, but thank you so very much. That's true. He's playing ball because he has a whole lot of shady dealings. And I have spoken about it endlessly, and I agree with you 100%, and I appreciate your support. Thank you. Thank you. Pilgrim Media. When will we get the lady? Pilgrim Media. Probably soon. Emily Cooper! Your McConnell is working for me.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you so very much, Emily. Thank you.
I almost did a Bill Clinton and a Mitch McConnell all at once.
Emily, thank you so very much.
Emily Cooper, thank you very, very much, Emily. It's kind of hilarious that they've given up. Like, they have given up. If this is a football game, it is 45-3 in the beginning of the fourth quarter. 45-3 at the beginning of the third quarter, you can come back. And we've seen the Patriots do 35-3 or whatever. 45-3, fourth quarter, you ain't coming back. They're still harping on Trump's personality. They're still harping on his personality. They never stop. And here's an interesting point I wanted to tell everybody, all 500 people. This is extremely important. If President Trump said, you know what, we're gonna run our reelection strategy will be, we're going to engage in regime changes. We're going to adopt the Lincoln Project people. So Max Boot, Bill Kristol, Bush-era neoconservatives, please come back to the Republican Party. We need you. We want you. And, please go ahead and come back. And, we'll treat you good. I wouldn't vote for him. You wouldn't vote for him. The 500 people watching, most of whom are Trump supporters, wouldn't vote for him. Democrats aren't like that. Democrats say, no matter what we do, you're going to vote for us. You are expected to give allegiance, to give loyalty, and if you don't, you will be shunned and silenced and excommunicated and ostracized, and you will feel shame and embarrassment for the rest of your life, and you'll lose your friends, and your family members won't speak to you, and that's how they run, that's how they roll. But that's not how politics works. You can't do that. You can't do that. The golden muumuu, you can't do that. You can't do that. And they're still doing the same things. Aaron Paradiso, will anyone be held accountable for spying on the president? Well, okay. We had one FBI official indicted, so Kevin Kleinsmith. We will have more people indicted after the election, possibly even before the election, but after the election. So people will be held accountable, Aaron, but it's going to take time. It's going to take time. It's going to take time because what they did was hide behind their post. They hid behind hysteria that they created, and they created this world that doesn't exist. The world that doesn't exist is the DNC being infiltrated by Russia, being hacked by Putin is national security. That's not national security. So the Durham probe needs to find more, like, the Durham probe got Kevin Kleinsmith on a specific breaking of the law. The plot that he has to pretty much, like Clinton purchasing the Steele dossier should never have been used to begin a Mueller probe, to eventually lead to a Mueller probe, which is one of the reasons that Biden's going to be replaced by Hillary Clinton. That's going to be fantastic. If you think that, ladies and gentlemen, if you think that this is going to be a 6-3 Supreme Court victory that was unforeseen before the other day because of a tragedy, if you think that, when Clinton enters, it's going to be pandemonium. And definitely subscribe to H.A. Goodman and H.A. Goodman's other channel, Aaron Paradiso. It's going to be a while before they can prove that a whole bunch of people coordinated. And that's not difficult to prove. It's not difficult to prove because you already have the text messages. We'll stop him. We'll stop Trump. IDKENG, hello. The last admin was an open business operation. The whole operation was to send taxpayer money to Ukraine to launder back to U.S. IDKENG, thank you. Yeah, there was that whole situation. That whole situation is when you have Hunter alone on the board of directors, and then he admits that he wouldn't have gotten on the board of directors if it weren't for Joe Biden. And then the left is completely oblivious. They don't care. They're apoplectic. They're just like, oh, no problem. And then they say, well, Trump and Kushner and Ivanka and Eric and Donald Jr., they're enriching themselves from the presidency. Well, wait a second. It's okay for Hunter to enrich himself from Biden's vice presidency? Is that what you're saying? They're never consistent with their moral maxims that lead to such outrage. They're never consistent. They never talk about packing the courts when they expect to win. They never talk about doing away with the Electoral College when they expect to win the Electoral College, when they expect to get a 6-3 Democratic majority. See, they never expect to win. They never expected to lose. That's the problem. That's the problem. And so IDKENG, you're right, there's so much. Rudy Giuliani echoed the same sentiment, and he has a sworn affidavit from Viktor Shokin, who was essentially the Ukrainian James Comey, except Comey actually did set up and frame Trump. But you have the guy who was forced out just because he was going to look into why good old Hunter was on that board of directors, or at least going to look into the corruption associated with that oil and gas company. But see, it's interesting. Like, this is the mentality. Republicans are 100% right, winning the presidency and Senate majority with a minority of votes, and using that power to fill court vacancies is unquestionably within the rules of the game. So is statehood for D.C. Okay, then Republicans will find regions of the country or territories. They'll find a way to get 2 more senators of their own. Court expansion, they'll expand the courts after Democrats expand the courts. It's like, what do you play? You want to expand the courts, but you didn't bring that up. Why didn't you bring that up in 2016? Because you thought you were sitting pretty. It's so hilarious. They're so arrogant. They never. This is the thing with sports. Like, you understand if you, Here, this is funny. Fear of getting yelled at in bad faith by Fox News and House Republicans has completely paralyzed critical American institutions. What? Where did they get this stuff? That's the story of Comey and Mueller. What? And so much else over the past. What? And then it gets retweeted. Then this gets retweeted like, only 367 times. Okay, so it's like 1,000, 2,000 likes. It's like, what does this even mean? You have Mueller engaged in a probe that should never have been started. Russian interference has never been quantified, has never been defined. They don't even know which Facebook ads swung voters. They cannot correlate. They don't even have a certainty. They're moderate to highly confident that Russia even hacked the DNC. When they asked CrowdStrike, there was no evidence. They still asked Clapper recently. He said he still had no direct evidence. I'm looking at like all the intelligentsia here, and at a certain point, you lost 2 elections. You lost the Supreme Court for a generation. At what point do you admit that the intelligentsia that runs the show are a bunch of buffoons and imbeciles? Just wondering, Democrats, at what point do you admit this? Paul Bartlett, hello. Paul, hello. Christlight, good day from Australia, A-Train America, sending much thanks to Harry Reid. Fill that seat, hashtag she's running, that's right. Christlight. Thank you. My Australian crew is strong. Luke St. Martin, Eric H526. The Australian crew is strong. By the way, Christlight and everybody here. I don't know if you saw last night. Everybody, like my big, I think it's called a Ushanka, the babushka hat. I'm going to have something sewed onto it. It's pretty awesome. I bought 2 other hats too. And I'll have some wonderful embroidered patches sewed onto it. It's pretty awesome. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. But so that's why I'm not wearing my giant Ushanka hat. But I will very soon. Christlight, thank you. That's right, Harry Reid. Harry Reid did it. Christlight, thank you. Aaron Paradiso. So if you had to guess whose names do you think... well, I don't think there are any sealed indictments. I don't think anything is sealed. I think that they're still working on it. Aaron, I would say that Peter Strzok, Andrew McCabe... well, first I would say, Aaron, there are probably people that we haven't heard of. So there are probably people we haven't heard of because there were a couple of, like, you know, Agent 1, or like there are agents that haven't been, the names have not been disclosed. So people who worked with Kevin Kleinsmith. What Durham is doing, number one, is trying to find any criminal conduct, and number two, trying to weave or trying to connect the dots to point to a plot. So 18 U.S. Code 371 is a legal statute that talks about people who conspire against the United States government. So that's what Aaron, that's you have people like James Comey and Andrew McCabe and Peter Strzok who are pretending that Russian interference is national security. The Democratic Party media, not national security. Nothing that happens within the Republican or Democratic parties has anything to do with national security. And then they say, well, you want a foreign country? You had never had any evidence that a foreign country wanted one candidate over another. And it doesn't matter. Every election we've ever had, from Washington to Adams, you had countries that said, well, we'd rather have this person over that person. Who cares? It's completely irrelevant. That is completely and utterly irrelevant. So, Aaron, thank you. It's completely and utterly irrelevant. But they've made this, like, the problem with Democrats is that they make these horrible leaps of logic. Well, obviously, the Russians hacked the DNC because the email showed corruption. It's like, well, that's because the email showed corruption. Doesn't mean just because Trump benefits from your utter inability to hold fair primaries or your despicable corruption doesn't mean that it has to be a plot. You had no evidence of it being a plot anyway. But here you have part of the intelligentsia here. We need 9 justices, so they're like, oh my God, look what Trump is saying. You're going to need 9 justices. So President Trump is obviously saying like something very logical. You have all of these mail-in ballots and absentee ballots. The system is not... usually with an absentee ballot, you have to apply for it. It's very different from just being sent ballots. And there are Slate articles, New York Times articles, Miami Herald articles talking about everything from forgeries of signatures. That's what they did with Kanye West to get him off the ballot on states. They said, oh my God, these signatures are the same. So you have everything from forged signatures to people sending in multiple ballots. Then they say, "Oh my God, he's getting ready to go to the Supreme Court." It's like, "Oh my, you're going to lose again." See here, the president keeps making it clear that unless Democrats win an unquestionable landslide, he will fight the results of the election. That's what Clinton told Biden, which was basically saying that she would not give up. IDKENG, hello. Do you think that all the money from Joe Biden account? No, the way they don't. Everyone there was involved in all the branches, even the media. I think that what happens is you have honest. They called it honest graft. So Democrats during Tammany Hall, you had George W. Plunkett, who wrote a series of very plain talks on very practical politics. So what they do is they don't just set up an account and say, okay, we're going to take money directly from these business people or donors, or what they do is they network and they say, okay, well, hey, do you need anybody on your, my father's the vice president, so I think that I'd be perfect to be on your board of directors, even though I don't speak Ukrainian and I have no background in oil and gas. That's legal. That's like a type of legal graft. They did that for access. Same with the Clinton Foundation. The Clintons never pocketed money directly from Uranium One. They got money funneled into their foundation for philanthropic purposes, and then President Obama just didn't veto the sale of 20% of U.S. uranium capacity to Putin eventually. That's what happens. So they don't have bank accounts that accept it's called legal, or they used to call it legal graft. So that's what takes place. It's a whole bunch of, they found a way, and Republicans have done it too, but not nearly as well as Democrats. They found a way to utilize networking as to be a very lucrative business. You see this with like these progressive political action committees. What they do is they say, well, we need strategic consulting, so we'll go with the boyfriend or the friend of one of the people who started the PAC, and we'll pay that person because we have millions of dollars in donations, and we'll find this strategic. So one of our friends has a strategic consulting firm for progressive politicians, and we'll give that company $200,000. And so it's who you know in politics, just like in Hollywood. Why do you think, ladies and gentlemen, why do you think Hollywood is so the way Hollywood works is the following. When Clinton used to have those $100,000 a plate dinners, only the top executives, directors, producers would be able to afford that. If you're pitching a script, or if you're looking for money for a movie, you go to that function, you hobnob and talk to Madam Secretary for 2 minutes, but you talk to everybody else for more time. And you're able to then fund your project in Hollywood. That's why Hollywood is so far up the rear end of the Democratic Party. It's sickening. Jimbo! 4.7 million anonymous donations for $200 million to Dems. Yeah, that's really bizarre. Really bizarre. And the funny thing is, Jimbo, thank you. As always, Jimbo, the funny thing is, it's like, this election, the way they're looking at it is, the way the Democratic Party is looking at it is in the following way. They barely lost in 2016. So instead of trying a new strategy, they're utilizing the exact same strategy with outraising President Trump, but they haven't altered their failed tactics, which will lead to a failed strategy, which will lead to the same outcome. They're the definition of insanity. They're doing the same things over and over again and expecting something different to take place. Here, this is funny. I keep seeing people say the Republicans should have just voted Garland down in 2016, and it's the contrived principle that's making them look bad now. Republicans don't look bad to Republicans. This is how clueless they are. Democrats look bad. Democrats are the ones who changed the rules of the Senate to suit Mitch McConnell and President Trump with a simple majority, and Democrats are the ones who wanted Merrick Garland in an election year. Now they're saying, no, you can't confirm Amy Coney Barrett in an election year. They're the hypocrites. Like, when they call McConnell a hypocrite, they're actually also putting a spotlight on their own hypocrisy, which is hilarious because they don't realize this. McConnell feared that if Garland got a hearing, he'd win over Republican votes. No, see, he wouldn't have won over Republican votes. They want to do away with the Electoral College, the filibuster. They want to pack the courts. It's like they can't even get Medicare for all through. And you've had a great many people harp on it and obsess over and focus on it, rightfully so in many cases, for 4 years. They can't even get actual policies that have people excited. They can't even pass that through the House. So, and they're going to lose this election, and they're not going to get, Congress and the presidency anytime soon. The Democratic Party is run by the most foolish bunch of imbeciles that are essentially the intelligentsia, the brain trust of the Democratic Party, the liberal brain trust. The Golden Moo-Moo! My goodness, Golden Moo-Moo, thank you! My goodness. When you shout out my favorite nickname, it gives me tingles. It makes my night. Thank you so very much, Madam Secretary. Madam Secretary, God bless you. We're just waiting. We're just waiting for you to eventually save us from Biden. The Golden Moo-Moo, thank you very much. My goodness. Thank you so very, very much for your support, and like I said, your name is one of the great names on this channel. Really, really one of the great names on this channel, so thank you very, very, very much. The Golden Moo-Moo, thank you. Thank you very, 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 very much. Very kind of you, and it's just so fantastic to see the Golden Moo-Moo up in the Super Chat. Democrats did this to themselves, and this is probably one of the biggest political defeats in American history. When was the last time there was a 6-3 Supreme Court? Golden Moo-Moo. When was the last time? Nightmare ahead. Imagine the damage. I love this. The damage. It's damage. It's not like, different. This is also one of the reasons they always lose. The apoplectic hysteria and hyperbole. The damage, the danger, the destruction. If indeed this is all true, you must really stink. You must really be so pathetic and weak that you get stomped on by Trump and McConnell. What could you have done differently? Maybe you shouldn't have cheated Bernie Sanders. Maybe you should have focused on that. Nightmare ahead. Imagine the damage. Imagine the damage. See, that's the nonsense. The Golden Moo-Moo. It's the nonsense all over again. IDKENG. The last words on every Democratic plot is, and they are going to pay for all of this. And they laugh. We are paying for all the chaos that's happening. They're gonna pay for all. Yeah, this is the mentality. IDKENG and the Golden Moo-Moo. Thank you again, IDKENG. The mentality is, oh my goodness, you better watch out because we're so politically, we have so much political influence, and, don't get us angry, and, we will retaliate, and you better watch, and you'll see, we're going to get very angry. We're going to get very angry, and, you'll feel the wrath. And it's like, no, we're not going to feel any wrath. You're pretty much, what? They keep on saying their whole thing now is Republican minority rule, IDKNG and Golden Moo. The court has thus become one of the three foundations of Republican minority rule. It's like you run media. The media is not independent at all. It is an extension of the Democratic Party. Plus, you have Hollywood. Plus, you have every late night show preaching and harping about how horrible Trump is. If you had entertainers doing their job and entertaining, if you had Hollywood out of politics, if you had media just for, like, the New York Times and the Washington Post were never overt liberal publications. They were perhaps leaning left, but they weren't like literal extensions of the Democratic Party. You didn't have Clinton's campaign, the Democratic campaign managers working at the Washington Post or being columnists. You like, media is apoplectic. That's why they're like, oh, well, you know what? Most Americans don't want this. Like, no, if you wanted just a simple majority vote, you would never get all the civil rights laws and all the civil rights accomplishments of the 60s. Because the average American very likely would have, if they did polls throughout the South or polls through, you very likely wouldn't have gotten laws passed. You don't want a poll or a survey, deciding America's future, because media influences the viewpoints within those surveys. You want to have a republic with a constitution that has rules where each state gets a voice. That's why you have the House based on population and the Senate. Each state gets 2 senators. But see, again, the court has become one of the 3 foundations of Republican minority rule. Oh, but this is hilarious. If the tables were turned also, the others being the Electoral College and the Senate, they literally want to do away with the Senate or the Electoral College. It's like, they can't win. They can't win they can't win within the American political system, so they need to change it up under the guise of it not being moral or just. Others being the Senate, where Wyoming's 600,000 residents get 2 Republican senators to match 2 Democrats who represent 40 million Californians. Yeah, that you can look back at the Constitutional Convention, and that's why we have the Senate and the House of Representatives. These people are not the sharpest tools in the shed. I swear to God. The Golden Moo, thank you again. The Golden Moo. IDKNG, I'm Cuban. Lagoa is the right pick. I was checking Amy's record. She supports lockdowns. Now, Lagoa would be in hard position on DACA. I want Dreamers to become citizens. So that's me. I want Dreamers to become citizens. I think Barbara Lagoa would be a fantastic pick. I think she should be a fantastic pick. IDKENG. I really do. I was saying this the other night. I think it's going to be Amy Coney Barrett, but I would love Barbara Lagoa. I would love to see her. In fact, I'm telling you, you can't go wrong. Amy Coney Barrett, Barbara Lagoa, you can't go wrong. You couldn't go wrong. So, it's Christmas come early. IDKENG would be huge in Florida. Latina. Hispanic vote is going to be very important for President Trump. Latinos are going to re-elect President Trump. In many ways, I think Barbara Lagoa would be better. But Amy Coney Barrett's good too. Very good. They're both excellent. I don't think you can go wrong. The lockdowns, yeah, but I don't know what Barbara Lagoa's position would be on that. But I think both would be very, very good. But she's fantastic. I was actually listening to her when she was nominated to the Florida Supreme Court. She was thanking her parents. She's an only child. Fantastic story. IDKENG, I would love Barbara Lagoa. Love that. If she were the next Supreme Court justice. And Democrats would implode. Aaron Paradiso. Thank you, IDKENG. Thank you. Aaron Paradiso. Will Maxwell... I can't really get into that on any live stream, but there's probably so much in that cesspool of crap. There's probably so much feces and excrement. It's endless, probably, Aaron. It's endless. And they're not going to... People say they're going to overturn Roe v. Wade. They're not going to overturn Roe v. Wade. The interesting thing is, Democrats have the reverse argument. Like, Democrats adopt the conservative position on the Second Amendment when they talk about Roe v. Wade. It's interesting. They're like, well, you're making it harder. That's a whole other story. Aaron, thank you so very much. Can't get too into it, but you can imagine. Aaron, thank you very much for your support, too. Thank you. Thank you so much. Great questions. Awesome questions, Aaron. Thank you. 1998 Blue Dog. Lagoa best pick, but Barrett would do also. I think Barrett's going to be there just because she's battle tested with, because the Democrats, what they would do, here's a Cuban American with Barbara Lagoa. You would think a Latina. You would think they wouldn't want to disparage her, but see, they don't work that way. They would try any way possible, and I don't know if Barbara Lagoa would I don't know how she would handle how despicable Democrats will eventually become. Amy Coney Barrett knows. She's hardened and battle tested. She knows. With the lockdowns, let's see. I don't know what either of their, I don't know what Barbara Lagoa's viewpoint on lockdowns. Let's see. Okay, so recently approved. I don't know what exactly when you say. Well, she was supported lockdowns, so I can. Let's see. Ruling that gives Illinois, Barrett concurred with the majority Illinois Republican Party versus Pritzker to keep the illegal lockdown in place and allow Democrats to rip up the Constitution under the guise of safety. She hid behind the precedent, 1905, to attend attempts. Okay, so. At least at this stage of the pandemic, Jacobson takes off the table any general challenge to, based on the 14th Amendment. So it continued. While in the face of pandemic, the governor of Illinois was not compelled to make a special dispensation for religious activities. Nothing in the free speech clause of the First Amendment barred him from doing so, as in the case reconciling the free. All that the governor did was to limit certain degree the burden on religious exercise that imposed. So, I mean, I don't like that ruling, but and there's the Second Amendment she would be strong on. Let's see. Let's see what Robert Barnes said. He's awesome. Thread, Barrett sided with the government on almost every civil rights case. Maybe Barbara Lagoa would be a lot better. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. I think that ultimately it's still going to be a very good pick, because you saw the way she stood down, as you saw the way she battled Senator Feinstein. So, old school dad man, HA, those two, but who else in the mix? All have to be great choices. I think old school dad man, thank you so much as always. I think it's only those two. It really is only those two right now. So it really is only those two. So we'll see. I think that I'm trying to read right here. I think that ultimately it's going to be very good. If indeed she sides with liberals, that would be even more reason for them not to completely freak out. But on certain issues, she sides. But here's the New York Post. Why Amy Coney Barrett is hands down the best pick. So this is the New York Times. It's, you know what, there are concerns with, because I think John Roberts says frightened conservatives everywhere. But either way, it's still going to be a 6-3 Supreme Court. Let's say even if you put Roberts as like, it'd still be 5-4. At the end of the day, when she's on the Supreme Court, I mean, she's a lifelong conservative. So when she's on the Supreme Court, when it comes to an issue like Democrats trying to steal the election, which they can't even, they're the biggest cheaters. They have cheated so much. It's just like they don't even realize what they're doing now. They're so used to it. They couldn't even get Iowa in 2020. They couldn't even find the person who won Iowa. It took them 2 to 3 days because of an app. I think that for the election, you're going to have a conservative Supreme Court side with the president, just like a liberal Supreme Court would side with a Democrat. But Democrats did this to themselves. And they always tie, like, you know, oh my, this is a crisis of our democracy. Like, no, it's a crisis for the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is not synonymous with democracy. It's the antithesis of democracy. So they keep on, like, trying to play themselves up. They try to play themselves up all the time. Pat, she's running. Yes. I don't know when, but it'll be before. I don't know if she might not show up to the debates. She might. I was expecting her to be at the debates, but you know what? I'm not buying one. You cannot have, like, Pat, she is, Biden has a lid on her campaign. Biden has a lid on his campaign, and it's like every single day he's not even, like, the man is not even running. The man's not even running. It's like unbelievable. It's like really unbelievable. But let's see here. He should nominate Mary. MAGA for life. Hello. Hello, Mannequin Wizard. Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm running out of steam. It's going on an hour and a half. People, thank you so very much. To my super chat, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be amazing either way. You know, you're going to have, whether it's Barbara Lagoa or Amy Coney Barrett, you're going to have the third Supreme Court justice by President Trump. Democrats did this to themselves. They have only themselves to blame or to thank. And this is democracy. This is the rule of law. This is the republic. This is the Constitution. You signed up for this, Democrats. You knew what would happen if you cheated with Bernie Sanders. You knew that people wouldn't fall in line. You still did that, didn't you? So now you have, and then you changed the Senate rules. So, but give me your thoughts below. It's going to be Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So President Trump will find out. Will tell us who he's going to pick. I will be very happy if it's Barbara Lagoa. Very, very, very happy. Very happy. But I'll also be happy with Amy Coney Barrett. Perhaps Lagoa is the better pick. But it's going to be fantastic either way, especially if you support the Second Amendment. So give me your thoughts below. Luke St. Martin, Eric H526, thank you, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel. Subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for a fantastic live stream.